Welcome to the August Audit Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for attending. So this morning, we have a couple of items on the agenda. The first order of business to approve the May 16, 2024 Audit Committee meeting minutes. Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? And a second? Okay. It's been moved in second. Can we vote? Okay, the minutes have passed. Thank you. Once again, this is the Audit Committee meeting for Thursday, August 15th, 2024. The next item on the agenda is an internal audit briefing from Mr. Emil, the AGM internal audit. You have the floor, Mr. Emil.
Thank you, Mr. Frierson. Mr. Frierson, Mr. Hurley, members of the MARTA Board of Directors and MARTA Management, thank you for being here this morning to hear the audit activity briefing for MARTA's fiscal Q4 of fiscal 24 from April 1st to June 30th, 2024. Next slide, please. We will start with the activities of the operational audit group. The operational audit team issued 5 audit reports during the quarter. 4 are on this slide, and there is one on the next slide. I'll highlight 2 of the audits. The streetcar maintenance audit. This audit was focused primarily in 2 domains around the streetcar. The first kind of like body of work was around fire safety and fire hazards, and the second one was around maintenance of the streetcar itself. The reason we chose to look at the fire side of the things is because of the location of the streetcar maintenance facility under a bridge downtown. So we looked at legal requirements, we looked at fire suppression systems, some other elements. We did not find any exceptions, at least in the areas that we looked at, so we feel pretty confident that they're handling this side of the house very well. We also looked at the maintenance of the streetcar. The only one issue that was noted there was related to maintenance and some opportunities to improve and kind of finish some of the work that had already been started. It has to do primarily with the wheel truing process, and the wheel truing is to make sure the wheels are in the right shape and profile so we don't have any sort of derailment in the streetcar. Mr. Daniel Hecht is here, but I can probably speak on his behalf. I think they're working to sign a contract. I think the contract is in procurement and legal reviews. I've been told that it will be signed pretty soon, so that we have a contract in place with schedule of sending those wheels out, getting them profiled the right way, and getting them back, putting them on the wheel car, and continuing in that process of being safe from that point of view. So work is being done, it has been done, but we're going to track it to make sure it gets kind of through the finish line, so to speak. Okay. The next one was the rail car maintenance audit, and this audit really focused, it was a narrow focus audit related to the wheel and wheel assemblies of our rail cars. So we wanted to make sure that maintenance, inspections, and everything that's supposed to happen as it relates to those wheels and wheel assemblies is taking place. And we did not find any exceptions. Again, that's a critical part of the train that's responsible for its safe operations. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. The final and 5th audit that we completed during the quarter was related to our mobility service. The audit listed 3 significant findings related to unauthorized commitments bypassing the contractual modification process that we have, modifications without updated independent cost estimates to understand the cost impact, and finally, ineffective contractual oversight related to various language clauses. Those have been communicated to management. I believe the board has received several briefs related to new procurement initiatives for mobility service, a new RFP, etc. We will continue to track specifically these deficiencies until they get remediated, whether it's through internal processes or through the RFP process and the new contract. At the same time, we initiated the planning for 3 of the audits that we have in the fiscal 25 audit plan, but we started the planning in fiscal 24, so we can hit the ground running in fiscal 25. So overall, we had 4 findings that are being remediated as we speak. Next slide. These are prior operational audits with open findings. We've discussed those before. There is one finding that's past due related to the development and implementation of an employee handbook that was due at the end of June. In my meetings with the AGM of Human Resources, I was told that this was going to get completed by the end of this month, August. So when we meet in November again, during the November Audit Committee meetings, I'm hopeful that we will have this closed and moved off the books. But this is the status of that one particular past due finding. Next slide. Switching over to our IT audit group, we remained focused on providing assurance and examining MARTA's cybersecurity, defenses, and resilience. These audits are focused in those areas, various different elements of that. Given the world that we live in of high geopolitical confrontations and uncertainties, we need to continue to be very resilient and prepared for things to happen, because just that's the world we live in. We can't do anything about it. We had one audit that had 5 significant findings, and we also had kicked off 2 audits, one around IT software asset management. And the reason this one audit is important is because we need to know what kind of software we have in the environment so we can actually provide the appropriate security updates and maintenance on those software assets. And we also have a software maintenance audit, again, a very important activity from multiple directions. One is obviously cybersecurity, but the other one is to hopefully have the right procedures in place to avoid what happened to other airlines, for example, when they patched their software and couldn't fly people for a week. So we're going to examine that process just to make sure we have the right guardrails. Okay. Next slide. These are prior IT audits with open findings. Those 2 that are highlighted in yellow, as we're meeting with Rhonda and with the new CIO and with the CISO, my understanding is that they're working on procuring certain technical solutions to get us through the finish line, to get those items off the books, so to speak, and get those particular control deficiencies remediated. I think there are some technical solutions that we can evaluate and put into the environment. It takes a little bit of time to go through the right due diligence, make sure they work for MARTA, and get through the procurement process. I'm hopeful that this will be done. And then we had a couple of other items that are still being worked on from an IT perspective. Overall, 3 past due findings, which I talked about, 2 in process and 5 closed. This is a substantial decline in the number of past due findings if we compare them to like a year ago when we had over 10, for example. So the number of those past due items is being shrunk as we speak. Let's move over to the next slide. This slide highlights the quarterly activities for Q4 of the contract audit group. Those folks are staying extremely busy. They issued 22 audit reports, and they exited the quarter with 13 audits in process. So, as a reminder, we don't have a plan for that audit team. We process and do those audits as they come in. Those are usually rate reviews or cost or price analysis. When we have sole source procurements, you oftentimes hear that audits being asked to evaluate the proposal to make sure the prices are substantiated. So this is what that contract audit team does. They did not find during the quarter, they didn't identify unallowable costs when we do the overhead rate reviews. That's a good thing. That means our consultants and contractors are giving us overhead rates with allowable cost under the federal acquisition regulations. At the same time, the group identified $457K of unsupported costs in primarily two cost analysis of two contracts that were sole source. So those items were negotiated with the vendors. Next slide. This is a very brief summary of the entire year. Since we're talking about Q4, I thought it would be important to provide a brief overview of the entire year. The contract audit team is the busiest. They issued 122 audits during the fiscal year, which is as high as we've done during the time I've been here. We're usually around 90 to 100 a year. We got through 122 with a lot of hard work and long hours and things of that nature, but we got it done. Unidentifiable overhead rate costs of $255K approximately, and unsupported costs in cost or price analysis of $1.8 million. The operational audit team issued 11 operational audit reports. The IT audit team finished 4 audit reports, and then we completed 2 investigations during the year. So overall, pretty productive year for the audit department while facing some staffing challenges through the year. Next slide. The fraud, waste, and abuse line was quiet during the quarter. We did not receive new reports or new allegations. So, there's nothing to report there. And then I would go to the next slide. This is just other internal audit updates of audits that are going on where the authority is subject to those, and I'm responsible for project managing them, so to speak. The 2024 MARTA management audit is on schedule. As a reminder, that audit is done by KPMG, one of the big 4 audit firms. It's required by law. We have to undergo this audit every 4 years. The statutory deadline is December 31st by law. However, they've been asked to come and present the draft audit report and outcome to the audit committee when the audit committee meets in November. If everything goes according to schedule, as we are right now, we should have the draft audit report way earlier than the audit committee meeting. But at this point in time, the plan is for KPMG to present their draft report to all of you during the November audit committee. We're ahead of the statutory deadline. The next audit that we go through every year is the annual external financial audit of our financial statements and books and federally funded capital programs. It's conducted by Crow LLP. They will be here also in November to present their draft audit report of the MARTA's financial statements and books. Right now they're on schedule. I hope they will continue to be on schedule, so the time the audit committee comes in November, as they normally would, they'll be here to present and also to answer any of your questions. So far, knock on wood, we're running on schedule. And with this, I will conclude my briefing and yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Meara. Appreciate it. Any questions from the board members? Yes, Ms. Frida.
It's really not a question, it's just more of a statement. And I know that we appreciate all the work the IT department does to keep us up and running, but I just want to say a special thank you during our most recent event that happened a couple weeks ago that I know it did affect MARTA, but minimally in comparison with what happened to other agencies. And for that, I appreciate all the efforts of the IT department. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And from an audit perspective, I was impressed by their response. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments from the board? And I just want to add to that also. Once again, we want to say great job for the IT staff working together to get us through this disruption. It impacted a lot of different agencies across this country. We did a wonderful job in responding, and I want to say thank you to the team also for their efforts. And once again, I appreciate what the audit committee has to do to make sure that we oversee our activities in terms of our operational activities, our IT activities, and all that's very important. And I appreciate your oversight and your leadership, Mr. Emil. Really do. Any other questions from the board members? Yes, Mr.
One quick question.
Bill Floyd. Mhm. Yes.
This employee handbook needs.
Hey, Bill, would you turn your mic on? There you go. Thank you. We want to be.
Employee handbook needs to be, we don't have an employee handbook?
No, we don't. Like, we don't have a book that you get. Not at this time.
Okay.
But we will.
Ms. Sangara.
Go ahead. No, I'm still talking to myself.
Ms. Jones, go ahead.
For the unsupported costs, is this typical, this price? Or is it, or
I would say,
what would raise a flag?
you know, this is typical from time to time. We look at every substantial sole source and single source procurement that comes across. And because it's, you know, the nature of the procurement process, we look at the price and whether it's substantiated, whether we're getting the same price or better compared to other agencies or other customers that they have. And typically, we would find one or two per quarter where a vendor may not be able to substantiate their price, or they may have made some sort of an error in their proposal, or they think they may be entitled to a higher annual price increase than we think that they're entitled to. So on behalf of MARTA and the taxpayers, we're trying to kind of rein them in a little bit to make sure when the operational unit that comes to you and presents you with a price, that price is again substantiated and we'll get a fair price. But I would say what the numbers here are fairly typical of our quarterly experience. Every now and then we see those.
All right, any other questions from the board members? All right, this is just a briefing, so we want to say thank you, Mr. Emil, for the information you shared with us.
Thank you.
All right, any other matters to come before this board? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.